Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you for a younger model. I'll be straight back, honestly. Be about an hour. Well, hi everyone, welcome to Mark's 900. I'm Mark. Now today I'm going to go and test ride a Yamaha MT09. I'm really excited about it, but the old Z900's got a little bit nervous. Well, let's go and find out what all the fuss is about. Honestly, I'll be fine. I'll be straight back. You've got nothing to worry about. Okay, here we are pulling into Meteor Business Park just between Cheltenham and Gloucester, and there's a few things in this area including J&S which sell accessories for motorbikes, all your different clothing and stuff. There's completely motorbikes with a showroom of about 200 used motorcycles in it, and then of course we've got Yamaha. So we'll take a wander into the shop, have a quick look. You can see we've got some XSR 700s, some MT07s, and then at the end there is a trio of MT09s in a colour they call Stealth. Which is all black, and I think that's probably my favourite colour scheme of the MT09. So I've got the keys now, picked up my gear, and let's have a first sit on the MT09. I'll just get gloved up and climb aboard. Okay, the first thing I'm noticing there is that it is much easier to get on the bike than I'm used to, because I haven't got that tail flicked up in the air. Okay, so turn the ignition on anyway and press the start button. Starts first time, and no faffing about, no waiting for anything to boot up. The dashboard's really clear, nice and simple. It's not massive, to be honest. It's a fairly small dashboard, but you can see everything on it on that display, and you don't have to mess around looking at where all the controls are, because it's just really straightforward. Let's get out of this industrial park then and get onto some open road. Turn right at the first set of traffic lights, and we're off up a road that I know is extremely bumpy, but let's just give it a little bit of throttle to start with, see how she goes. So that was in fact very, very smooth and nothing out of the ordinary. I was expecting it to sort of be trying to throw me off the back of the bike or something, but no, it was really straightforward. And the ride itself on this extremely bumpy road, well, I perhaps can't appreciate it from the video, but it's an awful road. Even so, not really feeling a thing, so that's great. In terms of the sitting position, it's quite strange to me compared to what I'm used to. Now, I haven't got a particularly sporty bike, but even so, sitting on this one, it feels like I'm bolt upright. I'll tell you what, it's like sitting on a bar stool when you've got your feet tucked in behind the stool, if that makes any sense. And the handlebars are really high up, so it almost feels like my hands are right up by my chest. Obviously they're not, it just sort of feels like that. So it's an unusual sitting position for me, a very comfortable one. It's just an observation really. So yeah, it certainly is super comfortable. You could go for a very long distance like this. I don't know what it's going to be like though once I get up to some speed, because when I start to accelerate I'm already quite upright, and I would prefer to be leaning forward a little bit. So we'll see how that goes once we hit a bit of dual carriageway. So here we are then, on a bit of dual carriageway. Just get around this roundabout and wait for the car in front to go off ahead. Hopefully change lanes, and that will give me a chance just to open the throttle a little bit. It certainly goes around these bends lovely. Again, I'm in that quite upright position, but it feels fine going around the bends. And now we're going to open it up. So that power's coming on very quickly, very easily. And the front end stays nicely planted, even though it's on the most aggressive power setting. I'm not entirely sure what the traction control's on, but that's fine. Yep, so that is very quick at accelerating. I got to 70 miles an hour or so, very quickly indeed, as you would expect from a 900cc naked sports bike. Now the way it puts that power down is quite incredible, but you've only got to look at the stats on this bike and look at the power curve and the torque curve to see exactly why that is. And so you get that massive boost of power as soon as you twist the throttle, and then it kind of flattens off a little bit, and rather than it building with the revs, which is what you get with other bikes, certainly I know from like riding my 900, I'm used to like a crescendo of speed, power, noise and torque all building up as you hit towards 8,000 or 9,000 RPM. With this bike though, it just kind of hits you straight away, and then it's just there. So that is a very sensible way to deliver the speed and the power, but it's not that exciting. In fact, what it's like is a sort of diesel car, a quick diesel, where you've got all that power at the low end, then it just keeps on pulling, and it's undeniably quick, but at the same time, extremely sensible. I would just note as well that despite my earlier fears, it doesn't seem to be trying to throw me off the back of the bike, despite my very upright sitting position. So, very comfortable, very swift, very sensible so far, and I'm really enjoying the ride. There's nothing to dislike about this bike at the moment. My one criticism for the moment is the fact that my rear view mirror keeps spinning around. I've tried to adjust it a couple of times now, it's gone completely loose. So I'm going to have to pull in at home and sort that out. But meanwhile, let's get around this roundabout. You'll have seen it before if you've watched my channel. It's just a very long roundabout that you can just get your knee down a little bit. And then as you get round, you then sweep into a left-hander. So it's just a bit of fun, just to get the bike warmed up. And it took it all in its stride. It was very good. And once again, we'll accelerate off down this road as hard as we can using the quick shifter, which I've got to say is quite joyous. Loving the quick shifter, really nice. The guy in the shop said that there is no down quick shifter, it's only for up. I'm not sure if that's right or not. I'm going to try it later on. But anyway, we're heading down here. Again, we had that rapid acceleration, loads of low end grunt and torque, and it keeps on pulling in a very calm way. So we'll just finish off this little bit of dual carriageway before I go and pull in. As I slow down for these traffic lights, I will just note that the brakes are absolutely fine. They're exactly as I'm used to, so they feel very familiar. So no problems there. Right, back at home. There's my loose wing mirror. Get to it with a spanner, and let's get on our way. Right, back out into the countryside, and this is definitely one of my favourite roads that you will have seen before. It's the A46 that goes up towards Stroud and Birdlip. And it is a lovely bit of road which you've got to take easy to start with, otherwise you're just going to catch up with all the cars in front of you. So we'll take it easy up this first bit. Again, just enjoying the bike. It really is very, very comfortable. The one thing I've been struggling with is the settings for traction control and for power, because the guy in the shop, when I was taking the bike out, he said he hadn't had time to prepare it. And I think it was more that he hadn't had time to prepare himself. He didn't know I was coming despite having been in the day before. Anyway, he struggled to explain the differences in the power settings and the traction control. And I think he got it all back to front, and in the end he got so muddled he said to me, well just take it out and try different things. So I've been flicking through the different power levels and traction control, and there isn't sort of rider modes as you get with some bikes. It is all very sort of just change either one or the other to whatever suits. So I quite like it, to be honest. I think it's really good. It's quite small on the display, but the actual control buttons to get to are very, very easy, so you can change them on the fly. Piece of cake. And I've been messing around with all of them as I've been riding along. So here we are then. We're going up this windy road anyway. Over to the right, you might see it's a beautiful day. I mean, it's November, the sun's out, and it's incredible. So off to the right you'll see a bit of Gloucestershire as we come up around these bends, and it's taking these bends in its stride. One thing about the steering and the handling is that it's very, very light, and I think that's something to do with the upright position. There's no real weight on your wrists, so you don't get that feedback from the road that you might be used to, particularly if you're used to like a sports bike. Anyway, I'm going to pull over in a second because I'm caught up with the cars in front of me very quickly. So I'm just going to mess around a little bit with the traction control because we've got some nice bends coming up, and I want to get around there, give those cars a bit of a head start, because we've got that long right sweeping bend that then we can pin it as we come off the end of it, which I love doing. So here we go. You'll have seen before, this is quite a bumpy bend, but actually I'm not really feeling any of those bends, so we'll come off here and then pin it. Off we go. Beautiful, up through the quick shifter. You certainly can't fault this bike when you come out of a bend and pin the throttle, and it flies. It really does. Again, in a very smooth and controlled manner. It's great, really enjoy it. So let's turn off into another little country lane, so you can enjoy a bit of autumn now, all the red leaves and all that sort of stuff as we go flying through. It's quite bumpy. There's a few twists and turns in this road, but the bike eats it all up. And a quick note about the engine sound on this, which you probably heard hopefully through the microphone. It's quite a raucous, throaty kind of sound on this, and we'll look at the exhaust pipe in a minute. So the exhaust stops underneath the belly of the bike. There is no kind of exhaust pipe that sticks out the back. And I don't know whether it's because that exhaust sound is right underneath where you sit that makes it extra loud or what, but it is quite a noisy bike. And but it's not a bad noise. It's quite, as I say, throaty and raucous. So I'm quite enjoying the sound. but it's not loud enough that it's going to start upsetting the neighbours. Okay, so I'm coming up behind this car now, which is slowing me down, so I'm going to mess around a little bit with the traction control and see if I can pull a wheelie, which I think at the moment there's something that's stopping me from pulling a wheelie, and I think probably the traction control's on a little bit too hard. So I'm going to tinker about. Let's see if we can just get the front wheel up a little bit. If you've seen any of my YouTube shorts, you'll know I'm like the master of the 1 foot wheelie. I'm not exactly a wheelie king, but it's just nice to get that floating feeling. So could just about do it on this. I'm not going to go any higher than that. It's just a little blip, and that's more than enough. But it's much easier to do it on this than it is on the Z900, that's for sure. Yeah, so you've got the sitting position, the torque, and the fact that it's quite a light bike means it is easy to wheelie, if indeed that's your sort of thing. Not for everyone, obviously. So we'll just finish off up this road then. So let's enjoy a bit more countryside just as I find somewhere to stop. I think my usual place was taken, so I'm going to find somewhere and we'll pull over and have a look around the bike. So what do I think of this bike? Well, it's a complete surprise, really. I was expecting some mad wheelie machine that every time I touched the throttle, the front wheel was going up in the air. It was going to be a bit of a handful. It's raucous, mad, bonkers, all those sorts of things that you hear about the MT09. But actually, it was quite normal. The handlebars, as I said before, are quite high up in terms of comfort. It's a very comfortable bike. Looks-wise, there's nothing really offensive about this. Even that front light. You may or may not like, but actually I think it's quite nice. There's nothing too bad about it. This back end is very sensible. You could put somebody on the back of there, or you could carry luggage, and you know, that exhaust system tucked underneath is also quite sensible. So from a comfort point of view, yeah, it's really comfortable, and you could ride for miles on it. From a sort of aesthetic point of view, how it looks, I don't particularly like this colour scheme, to be honest with you. There's nothing about this bike that really stands out. So from a performance point of view, yeah, it's fantastic, but you'd expect that from a 900. I mean, they all go fast enough that actually it's more speed and more power than you'll ever need. But the way that power kicks in is really nice. It kicks in at the much lower revs, so that's fantastic. Makes for a different riding experience. I guess what I'm clumsily trying to say is that this bike is so good that it's got one fundamental flaw. So let me explain. Look, I know I've said that it handles different, it's got different performance, the sitting position's different to mine, and that it's not particularly to my taste, but that's all just very personal to me, really. In actual fact, there is absolutely nothing that I can find wrong with this bike. It is very, very good at every aspect. I mean, the performance is good, the handling's good, the acceleration, the quality of the build, value for money, the toys you get with it, the electronics and the quick shifters and so on. It's all really good. And that's because this bike sets the standard for the middleweight nakeds. It is very surprisingly the sensible option, and I never thought I was going to say that about an MT09. But think about it, if you want to go screaming around at 8,000 RPM where your maximum torque is, then go and buy a Z900. If you want to flick round the bends and possibly go to the track at weekends, you're better off on a Triumph. And if you want to be absolutely barking mad, go and buy a KTM. The MT09 sits in the middle of all those others, and whilst it will never ever disappoint you, and you'll always be pleased that you bought an MT09, it's never really, for me anyway, it's never really going to set my world on fire. And it's not that bike that I'm going to walk away from, look back at and think, yeah, that's my bike. It's just not giving me that special feeling, despite the fact that it is an absolutely awesome motorcycle. Perhaps the problem is that I came to this with a load of preconceived ideas about this bike being an absolute lunatic, and nothing could be further from the truth. Anyway, I've got to head back now, get back to Yamaha, so enjoy a bit more footage of the Cotswolds and a few more clips of the bike as well. So please watch till the end. It's only a couple of minutes away, and that will give you a chance to like and subscribe, and then I'll sum up at the end to give you a quick summary, followed by probably a few outtakes. I know you guys seem to like those, and I'll be honest, there have been one or two. So I'll see you at the end of the video. So which one of these bikes would you ride home then? Well, for me, it's got to be the Z900, but it would be a boring world if we all thought the same thing. So anyway, guys, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon. What I would say is... Oh, sorry. No, I'm just having a rest. I'll tell you what this bike is like. Imagine having a partner who's really good looking, absolutely dynamite in bed, but you take them to a party one day and it turns out that everybody else has already slept with them. Well, that's the MT09 and something that I definitely can't say.
The old Z900 is a little bit nervous. So let's go and find out what all the fuss is about. Oh, blimey, that wind.